Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to a reaction to my championship predictions. If you are new around here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you do need like video, and let's get straight into it. So, like I said before, if you didn't watch the Sport This Week final video, this is the first of the final three kind of non-fighting related videos I'm going to be doing now. Won't be doing a championship prediction unless this video like blows up for next season, so this is my last one, but I thought I might as well react to them and see how things go. It's always an interesting video, but yeah, like I said, we're going to be moving away from any other kind of sport content and solely focusing on fighting content on this channel from after the end of these next three videos. So the next one will be the Premier League reaction when the season ends, and then it will be the Golden Boot / Golden Glove for the Premier League reaction. But yeah, so we'll just get straight into it now. 24th position, I said it would be Rotherham. It was not Rotherham, it was Wigan. They had a very bad season, and like I said, they're going straight back down, and so yeah, overall not the kind of hope that they wanted. I believe they just came straight up last season, and so you know it's sad to see them go back down, but yeah, they're going back down. I know they have a big fan base as well, so you know it's not been the best for them. I like, by the way, just a little heads up, of course I'm still going to be a fan of all these sports as well. I'm not going to be moving away from actually liking these sports. It's just, like I said, the channel's going to be not around it anymore. But moving on now to 23rd place, got this bang on. I said Blackpool, it was Blackpool. I just didn't think their squad would be strong enough to be able to compete in this division. And I was right. I think they had a bit of a decent start early on. I think this was coming back up from League One for the first time in a little while. But like I said, I just didn't think their squad was strong enough, and it wasn't. Moving on now to 22nd, I got Bristol City. It wasn't them, it was Reading. Reading, I don't think many people suspected them to be doing this badly, but to be fair, I mean, they lost some big players at the start of the season, including John Swift, who was a big player for them. And so for them, it wasn't the best. And I mean, it was close, but yeah, it wasn't the best. And it's a big club to be going down, to be honest, and they've been consistently around the championship for a little while now, and so yeah, it's a big club to lose. Moving on now to 21st, just staying out the relegation zone, I said Cardiff, it was Cardiff. 21st position, not the best of seasons. I think just for their squad at the moment, they aren't playoff kind of contention level, and obviously they want to be, and like I said, I didn't think they would, but they did just about managed to stay out. And to be fair, if they went down, then that would have been a huge club to go down to League One, but luckily for them, they didn't. Moving on now to 20th, I said Coventry, it was QPR. Coventry, for a season, they did a lot better than I expected. I'll speak a bit more about them in a moment. QPR, though, did a lot worse than I expected. QPR, I will say why I predicted them in a minute, but I predicted them a lot better than this. And yeah, it was one of the first ones which I did get very, very badly wrong. Because yeah, like I said, I thought they'd do a lot better, and they didn't do very well at all. I don't really know what really went up with them, but they just didn't deliver at all of what I thought. And like I said, I'll show you where I put them in just a moment. Moving on now to 19th, I said Birmingham, it was Rotherham. To be fair, Rotherham did well, and Rotherham normally are the team that are pretty much going up, down, up, down, up, down, the yo-yo club of the division. But fair play to them, 19th position for them. They got to be happy with that, and of course they can build upon that and possibly be able to stay in the division for a little bit longer and actually be able to make a bit of a name for themselves in this division, because at the moment I still think they are being overlooked as a team that isn't seen as a Premier League club, a bit like maybe a Bournemouth at the moment, when everybody predicted them to go down this season and they didn't. I think it would have been the same with Rotherham this season, and of course, like I said, I thought they'd be bottom, but they wasn't, and so fair play to them. Moving on now to 18th, I said Sunderland. It was Huddersfield. Huddersfield, I thought would have done a little bit better than this, to be honest. I know they lost some big players, Lewis O'Brien being one of them, and I believe somebody else, and I think their manager as well. Was it Ismail at the time? It might have been Corberan. It was one of the two. But they lost a few big names there, and to be fair, I probably should have seen that they would have done not that great. But yeah, they really didn't do very well. And Sunderland, I mean, I predicted them a lot lower than, of course, they did finish. And of course, I'll tell you where they finish in just a moment if you don't already know. But yeah, Huddersfield, not a very good season, to be honest. Moving on now to 17th, I said it'd be Reading. It was Birmingham. To be fair, Birmingham have been consistently finishing around the bottom half of the table. They're quite a big club to be finishing at this level of the table, but of course, this is where they did finish, and yeah, it was just kind of bang average season for them. They've not been that great for the past few years, and I mean they did two positions higher than what I thought they'd be, but yeah, not the best. And of course, Reading, I thought they would be higher than they were. Um, Moving on now to 16th, I said it'd be Hull. It was Stoke. Stoke, to be fair, they have been in recent times around the playoff positions. I don't think they would have the best of seasons. I said it would be a little bit better than this, but still not the best. And to be fair, yeah, it was just a pretty, I would say, below average season for them. They probably look at it like that from not fighting around contention of playoffs anymore. And so now we'll move on to 15th. I said Wigan. Of course, they finished last, and so it shows how badly I got that one wrong. But it was Hull, and I mean, I only got Hull one position off anyway. To be fair, Hull, they made some decent signings at the start of the season, coming up, I believe, from League One. And so I did always think that they would be able to convincingly stay up, and they did. And so for them, I would say it was a solid season. You got to take that. And Wigan, like I said, it was a very, very bad season. I thought they would do a lot better with the kind of hype of finishing first in League One, but they didn't really seem to show anything, to be honest. Moving on now to 14th, I'd said it would be Stoke. It was Bristol City. Bristol City, I said, would get relegated. So to be fair to Bristol City, they have had a solid season. Like I said, I just didn't think at the time that they've really signed anybody, to be honest, of any note. And I still don't really think they will have. But they've had some decent results. And I mean, 14th for them, to be fair, of recent times, they got to take that. And Stoke, like I said, it was. I mean, I got it two positions off. It's not really a big thing, to be honest, but still, Stoke, they probably would have wanted better. Moving on now to 13th, I said Blackburn. It was Norwich. Norwich, this was a big surprise. Of course, coming down from the Premier League, still having some of their good players and still having a good manager at the time. I think it was Dean Smith at the time, and I might be wrong with that. But 13th for them is dreadful. That is really not what you're going to want to have as a first season coming back down. But of course, there's time to rebuild and stuff. But as a club who is normally seen as a bit of a yo-yo club in themselves, 13th is very poor. I know they've been through at least one manager, but that was very poor. Blackburn, I thought would do. I thought they'd do average, but they obviously did better than that. And I mean, they had a solid season in the end. I thought because they lost a couple of their players and they wouldn't have as good as a season, but to be fair, some of their players like Brereton Diaz stepped up for them, and so fair play to them. Moving on now to the 12th position, I said Luton. I was very wrong with that. It was Preston. Preston, to be fair, I said it would be similar to around this, and they're always similar to around this. They never really signed too many big players of note. And they always just kind of finish outside the playoff places in the kind of middle half of the table. And yeah, so I mean, it was an average season for them. You can't really take too much away from that, to be honest. Moving on now to the 11th, I said Huddersfield. Of course, they finished a lot lower, so I thought they would do a lot better. And it was Watford. Watford, another team to be coming down and not have a very good season at all. They had another poor season. They went through a lot of managers, and I think that just doesn't help them at all to be going through that many managers, and it just never gives them time to gel with the players, the manager, and it can be seen as a joke or whatever, but I hope the board isn't seeing it as a joke, because then it's just never going to end up good, and they're never going to be able to actually build upon a good team, and it's just not something that you really need to have in a club, that environment. And I mean, they have lost a couple of big players. They kept a couple of big players as well, so they still have a good squad going into next year. But next season, I just need to see them actually keep their manager for more than 2 seconds, to be honest. Moving on now to 10th, I've said it was Preston. It was Swansea. Swansea, not the worst, not the best of seasons. It was an alright season. Of course, Preston, like I said, was going to be 10th. They finished a couple of positions lower, so I wasn't far off. Swansea, It was alright. Obviously, they probably would have wanted to have more of a fight for playoffs because they were, in the end, just kind of out of that little race of the playoffs where it was going down to the wire. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It was alright for them, to be honest. Moving on now to ninth, I said it'd be Sheffield United. It was West Brom. Um, West Brom at the Christmas time or nearabouts, they were in the relegation zone with Steve Bruce, and things were not going very well at all. And in the end, Carlos Corberan's come in and he's done a very good job with them, and he's managed to get them almost into the playoffs. To be fair, like I said, it was a very close playoff kind of race, and they just missed out. But to be able to go from that kind of relegation battle where things were looking terrible to a position where they're in the playoff contention is very impressive, and it'll be interesting to see who they can sign next season, because I still don't think, with DK being injured again, that they've got the best attacking team. But a couple of players have shown that they are decent. Like, to be fair, I've been impressed with Jed Wallace this season. And DK, even when he plays, he is not bad. And Thomas Asante, they're not bad, but I feel like they are still missing out on players like a Pereira, and just missing out on these big players. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to be able to get a player like him again, but it's just, like I said, I think they are missing out on certain little players to be able to get them just back into that race. But if they can sign them, then it would not surprise me if they're back in playoff contention next season. Moving on now to the 8th position, I got this bang on. I said it would be Millwall. It was Millwall. They were very close to getting playoffs. Unfortunately for them, they didn't. Just missed out. I said that they would just miss out, and to be fair, it seems like that's the story of every season for them at the moment. But I'm sure one day they will get playoffs. But to be fair for them, this was a pretty good season for them. They got to take that, because they actually did look a little, like, normally they'll trail off a little bit more early on, but they did stay in it right till the very end, and they just missed out. Moving on now to 7th, I said it would be Swansea. It was Blackburn, of course, like I said before. Blackburn, some of their players stepped up and been able to get them into 7th. There was a time where they probably were seen to maybe have finished a little bit higher, but of course they didn't. Swansea, like I said, I thought they'd do a little bit better, just be able to get playoffs, but of course they didn't. And so overall, I mean, now speaking about this, I think Blackburn are already out of the playoffs. I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, fair play to Blackburn to be able to just about pinch it at the final day of the season. Moving on now to 6th, I said it would be Burnley. It was Sunderland. Sunderland, I got this very badly wrong. Of course, I said that they finished 18th. They were 6th. They proved me very much wrong. Amad Diallo had a great season. Some of their players had great seasons as well. And they proved that they are a very good team and a hard team to be messed with. And they are still in the contention. I think they lost 2-0 today of the recording of this to Luton, who's also in the playoffs. But still, to be able to have this good of a season, they got to be so happy with it. And I'm sure it won't be too long until, if they keep going like this, where they could be back in the Premier League. It would not surprise me if bar maybe next season they are fighting for playoffs again and possibly back in the Prem. Moving on now to 5th, I said it'd be West Brom. I thought they would just be able to comfortably get playoffs, but they didn't. It was Coventry instead. Coventry, fair play to them. I mean, I said they were 20th. That was another team I got very badly wrong. And to be fair, at the start of the season, things were looking really really bad. They were right in the relegation zone. They weren't playing matches. The club looked like it might be going possibly into, I don't know if administration is the right word for that or not, but things were really looking bad for them, and they just weren't even playing games, and that was kind of ruining the whole morale of their team to an extent. But they managed to keep going, and when they actually were able to play games, they were doing very well, and of course managed to get 5th and comfortably be able to get playoffs. And in this position where not many teams managed to get comfortable playoffs, Coventry pretty much did that with relative ease, and so fair play to them. Moving on now to 4th place, I said it'd be QPR. Of course, like I said, they were very much wrong. I was very much wrong. They of course finished 20th. And it was Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough, another one of them teams that had a bad start and changed it around. They had Michael Carrick come in as manager, and he brought a new style of football into it, and it was a very impressive style, and it was something just different to what most managers have got at the moment. And I think they had Neil Warnock before, I might be wrong, but they had another manager who just wasn't doing enough, And I mean, they got a good bunch of players, of course. Akpom being, I believe, the top goal scorer in the championship now, and it's good to see him finally reaching his potential and being able to prove that he is a good goal scorer. Because I feel like that potential was always there. He's just not always shown it. But of course now he did, and now they're in playoffs. Moving on now to the third position, I thought it'd be Middlesbrough. They got fourth, of course, and it was Luton. Like I said, fair play to Luton. To be honest, it would be a crazy story to see them in the Premier League with their club and their stadium and everything. It's a smaller club, to be honest, but they're doing it and they're doing big things, and you've got to be more than happy with this result this season. And obviously I thought they'd do a lot worse in 12th, and I mean they've always been improving pretty much every season now, and now there might be Premier League next season. I don't know. Like I said, I think they won 2-0 today, so in the playoffs, and so they're definitely in there for possible Premier League next season. Moving on now to second, I said it'd be Norwich. Of course, they didn't do very well. It was Sheffield United. Sheffield United, it's good to see them getting back into it and getting back into actual good contention again. They got a new manager in, changed things around a bit, and they look like a good team again. They look like a tough team to beat for anybody. Defensive wise, it's always been a strong team, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do because of how well they did in the Premier League last time they were in there on their first season back. It'll be interesting to see if they can replicate that again, possibly, or not, but we'll have to wait and see. But of course, they got automatics. And now moving on to the first position, I said it'd be Watford. Of course, they didn't do anywhere near as well I thought they would. And it was Burnley. Burnley, I said, would be sixth. Of course, they had a much better season than expected. I just thought at the start of the season they didn't make very many good signings. But to be fair, Vincent Kompany has done an amazing job with them and just changed the whole ideology around Burnley and them as a club. And to be able to just do so well this season and be so dominant is just very impressive. And so, yeah, fair play. And yeah, that's the end of my predictions or reaction to my prediction. And that's the end of the video. So I hope you did enjoy. Like, if you did, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.